Hi everyone, in this video we're gonna go ahead and learn about tab layout and fragments. So now we just need to go ahead and create an activity that is going to hold these tabs. So these tabs are fragments. So a fragment is just a mini activity that we can put inside an activity. A fragment is like an activity, but it's a little bit different. And here you can see that we have three tabs. The first one is going to be the profile tab, the users tab, and the share picture tab. So now let's go to our Android Studio and let's create a new activity. So inside the Java folder, right click on this package here and the new and go to activity and then click on empty activity. So the name of the activity is going to be social media activity. And then we have the generate layout file. The activity layout name is activity social media. Backwards compatibility is checked. The language is Java. Just click on finish. So now it asks that whether I want to add these files to the Git. I'm going to click on OK. So now I want when the user signs up or log in to the application, the user should transition to this social media activity. So we need to go inside the sign up activity first. So here, let's go ahead and create a new method inside our class, and let's say private void transition to social media activity. This method has no parameters, and then go ahead and open and close this method. Inside this method, we just need to go ahead and create a new object of type intent in order to go to the transition activity. So new intent. So first we need to pass the current activity, the context, which is going to be sign up activity.this, comma, and then we need to pass the activity that we want to transition to. So social media activity.class, semicolon. Next, we need to say start activity intent. So now let's go inside the sign up code. So here, when the user clicks on the sign up btn sign up, here we are showing a toast message to the user. So here I'm gonna just call this method transition to social media activity. And also inside the onCreate method here, we have created this if statement and said that if the parse user that gets current user is not equal to null, this is because of that token session that is going to be generated when we sign up a user or log in a user to parse. So because of that token session, we put this line of code here because we didn't have any activity to transition to. So now that we have the social media activity, now we say that if the parse user, that the current user is not equal to null and the user has already signed up or the user is logged into the application, so in that case, we want the user to be logged in. We don't want to log out the user. So let me just comment out this line of code and then let's say transition to social media activity. And also inside the login activity. So let's go ahead and let me just copy this line of this method and let's go inside the login activity class. And let's paste it here inside the curly braces of this class. And it says we need to import the intent. I'm just gonna click on OK. And instead of sign up.this, we need to pass login activity.this. And then here, when the user is logged into the application, so let's go to the btn login activity here. If the user is not equal to null and there is no error, we are going to show a fancy toast message and we are going to say transition to social media activity. That's it. Now let's go ahead and run our app. Let's go ahead and enter an email. So let's say, for example, angela@example.com, and let's enter a username. I'm gonna say Angela and a password 123. Now if I go ahead and click on sign up, the sign up process starts and then we are going to be transitioned to the social media activity. So let's wait. So we didn't transition to the social media activity. There is a problem here. There is a bug. because now we should be inside the social media activity. So what's the problem? So let's go inside the sign up class, and here let's take a look at this method. So everything is looking fine, and inside the sign up, BTN sign up, we called this method. So here you can see that I put this method inside this if statement that says if, for example, the EDT email or EDT username and the EDT password is empty, then go ahead and show this message that and say that email and user and password is required. So I put this method in the wrong place. So here I just need to cut this method and put it inside this else statement, and then inside this if statement that says if there is no error, transition to the social media activity. So sometimes this happens, okay? You just need to debug your application. Let's go ahead and run our app again. So here you can see that because I was already signed up, now we are transitioned to the social media activity because of this if statement that we put inside the onCreate method. We said that if the parse user, that the current user is not equal to null, because of that token session that is generated, then transition to the social media activity. So that's why you can see that we are transitioned to this social media activity. And if you want to, you can click on back, and then here, for example, you can enter, for example, Johnny @example.com, and the username is going to be Johnny, and the password 123. So now let's go ahead and click on sign up. Let's see what happens. So now we are inside the social media activity. Let's click on back. Let's go ahead and switch to the login activity, and let's see everything is working fine here. I'm gonna say Johnny @example.com as the email, and the password 123. So let's click on login. Now here we are inside the social media activity. So here it's time to go ahead and commit and push our changes to GitHub. So I'm gonna go to VCS and then commit. And then here the message is going to be social media activity implemented. Now let's go ahead and just click on commit and push. Commit and push. So here it is going to be on the origin master, and then push. So now our social media activity should have 3 tabs. One of them is profile tab, users tab, and the share picture tab. So let's go ahead and create these tabs first. So open the Android view, open the Java folder, the package, right click on it, new, and instead of activity, we are going to create a fragment. So go ahead and click on fragment blank. So the name of the fragment is going to be profile tab. And then it says create a layout XML, yes. And uncheck these 2 checkboxes, include fragment factory methods and include interface callbacks. The language is Java, and then click on finish. So add these files to Git. The next tab is going to be the users tab. So right click again, new. So why it is not responding? So let's wait and let's right click on this package. So the reason that it was not responding is that it was busy adding the fragment to our project. So I just need to right click on this package and then go to fragment and then fragment blank. So the fragment name is going to be users tab. So again, uncheck these 2 checkboxes and then click on finish. Okay. Let's wait until these processes are finished, and then we can go ahead and create the 3rd tab. So again, right click here, new, fragment, and then this time it is going to be share picture tab, and the fragment layout name here, fragment share picture tab. Uncheck these 2 checkboxes, click on finish. Okay, so here first of all, we need to have a toolbar that is going to contain our tabs. So let's go ahead and create that toolbar here. Just open the rest folder and then open the layout folder, right click on it, go to new layout resource file. The name of the file is going to be my underline toolbar. And then here, the root element is constraint layout. So don't worry about this root element here for now. The source set is main and the directory name is layout. Just click on OK. And then here, let's go inside this XML file. And instead of constraint layout, let me just delete this constraint layout here. And let's just create a toolbar. So just open a tag and type in here android.support.v7.widget.toolbar with capital T. And then we have the XML namespace here. Then we have the layout width, match parent. The layout height should be wrap content. The ID is going to be my underline toolbar. So make sure that you specify @+ID/my toolbar. The background color is going to be color primary dark. If you want to, you can change this color. And the theme is going to be @style/theme overlay.appcompat.dark.action bar. So if I click on preview, you can see our toolbar here that is created. So this toolbar is going to contain our tabs. Now we can go inside the social media activity XML file. So here it is, activity social media XML. And here let's go and switch to the text tab. And let's change this constraint layout to relative layout. So just highlight this constraint layout here, android.support.constraint layout. And let's just type in here relative layout. And then inside this relative layout, we want to first add the toolbar here. So let me show you what's going on here. We want to add the toolbar to an app bar layout. So first we need to have an app bar layout, and then we can include our my toolbar.xml file here, this toolbar, into our app bar layout inside the activity underline social media.xml file. So here I have pasted these lines of code here. I have created an app bar layout tag. So android.support.design.widget.app bar layout with capital A. And then the ID is app bar layout. The layout width is match parent. The layout height is wrap content. And then this app bar layout includes a toolbar. So inside this app bar layout tag, so here you can see the ending tag, right? This app bar layout is not self-closed. We have a separated ending tag here for this app bar layout. So now I just opened this tag inside this app bar layout tag, include, and then first we need to specify the ID. So inside the quotes, @+ID/my toolbar. So this is the ID of our toolbar here inside this my.xml file, my toolbar.xml file. And then here we are referring to the layout. So the layout is @layout/my underline toolbar. So let's go ahead and let's change the ID of this toolbar to my toolbar without the underline, because I don't want the ID and the layout file to be, its name to be the same. So I'm gonna go back to the activity social media and let's change the ID to my. And if you want to see, and if you want the autocomplete feature to help you, just hold down the control key and then press on space. So now we can see that it is referring to this tool, to this ID still. So that's because of the R file that contains all of these IDs. So we should just type in here again, my toolbar. So make sure that the ID that you specify here is the same as the ID that you have here. Now, in order to rebuild our project so that the R file has the updated IDs, you just need to go ahead and click on build at the top and then click on rebuild project. Or you can click on clean project, but rebuild option is better because it's just gonna clean your project and then it's gonna build your project. The R file is just an auto-generated file that is going to contain all of the IDs of our UI components. So we don't have to worry about the R file. That is just an auto-generated file. And in order to have the updated R file, we just need to go ahead and rebuild our project. So now that we have the app bar layout, now we need to go ahead and add a toolbar to our app bar layout. So first we have the app bar layout. Inside this app bar layout, we have the toolbar. And inside this app bar layout, we also need to have a tab layout here. Let me show you. You can see that we have 3 tabs. So we need to add our fragments that we created earlier to our tab layout. So let's go ahead and let's open a tag. Make sure that you are inside the app bar layout tag and just type in here android.support.design.widget.tab layout. The ID is going to be tab layout, layout width match parent, layout height wrap content, and the theme is going to be @style/theme overlay.appcompat.dark.action bar. So here you can see that this tab layout tag is self-closing / greater than sign, and it is inside the app bar layout. Make sure that everything is in the right place. And then now that we have this app bar layout ready, inside the relative layout, we need to have a view pager. So let me show you. Here you can see that I can scroll to the left or right and see our tabs, right? Here I am using a view pager in order to switch between these fragments, these tabs. So let's go ahead and create a view pager here. So just open a tag android.support.v4.view.viewpager. The ID is viewpager, match parent is the layout width, the layout height is wrap content, and the layout below, so we want this view pager below the app bar layout. Okay, so because I am using a relative layout, that's why I am using this attribute. So you are already familiar with the layouts and the attributes that each layout has. So the layout below is used in the relative layout, and we are simply saying that put this view pager inside the relative layout but below this app bar layout. So here, if you go ahead and switch to the design tab, so here inside the design tab, it might not show you the proper results. So let's just go ahead and click on build at the top and click on rebuild project. And if it is still showing you some results that are not the ones that you expect, don't worry. Here we just added the XML codes, and we're gonna go ahead and run our project, and we will see that everything is working fine or not. So let's wait until the build process is finished. So here you can see that it is still not showing me the proper results. Don't worry about that. Now that we have the layout, the tab layout ready inside our social media activity, now we need to go ahead and somehow add our tabs, our fragments that we created here, for example, the profile tab, share picture tab, and the users tab. We want to go ahead and add these tabs to our social media activity. So first, we need to have a tab adapter that is going to help us to add our fragments, for example, the profile tab or the users tab, to add these fragments to our tab layout that we created inside this social media activity. So let's go ahead and right click on this package inside the Java folder, and then go and click on a Java class. The name of the class is going to be tab adapter, and just click on OK. Add the files to Git, yes. Now inside this class, first this class must inherit from another class. So let's say extends from the fragment pager adapter. So just type in here fragment pager adapter, and then let's just click on this class here because it is not imported. Alt enter, and then click on import class. So here this line of code is added: android.support.v4.app.fragment-pager-adapter. So now there is an error. If I hover over this error area, it says that this tab adapter class must either be abstract or implement the abstract method getItem in fragment pager adapter. So this seems that this fragment pager adapter has some abstract methods. So if you want to learn more about this fragment pager adapter here, just hold down the control key, or if you're using Mac, hold down the command key and then click on it. So here you can see that we have an abstract class. Abstract classes cannot be instantiated. This means that we cannot create an object directly from an abstract class. And there are some abstract methods inside this class. For example, this getItem method. So we need to go ahead and implement this method inside a class that is inheriting from this fragment pager adapter. So let me close this file. So now I'm just going to click on this error area and then just hold Alt Enter and then implement methods. So we have the getItem and the getCount method. So just click on OK. So these are the two methods that we need to implement. Next, we need to also provide a constructor for this tab adapter. So I'm just going to click on this error area, Alt Enter, and just click on Create Constructor Matching Super. So we have public. The name of the constructor must be the same as the name of the class. And this constructor has a parameter, fragment manager. So by default, its name is FM. And here we are also calling the constructor of the superclass, super FM. So if I, for example, comment out this line of code, it is showing us an error. So that's why we need to have a constructor that is matching the constructor of the superclass. So we must call the constructor of the superclass, otherwise we have an error. So let me uncomment it, and there is no error here. So first, let's go ahead and implement this getItem method. Let's just delete this return null here, because at this method you can see that the return type of this method is fragment. This means that we need to return an object of type fragment. So what does this method do, getItem? This method is just going to return the fragment or the tab that we are dealing with. So this method has a parameter of type integer and its name is I. Let's change its name to fragment position, or let's say tab position. It's more meaningful. And inside this method, let's create a switch statement. Let's say that I want to switch between the values of this tab position. Here we can specify the position of the tab inside the tab layout. So switch tab position, and then we can say that, for example, I want the first tab to be the profile tab, right? So I'm going to say case 0 colon. So if it is the first tab, I'm going to instantiate the profile tab. So I'm going to say profile tab. I have already created this class, right? This fragment. Its name is profile tab, assignment operator, new profile tab, semicolon. And then we just need to go ahead and return this profile tab, semicolon. So notice that the return type of this method is fragment, and the profile tab is actually a fragment, right? Let me show you here. Let me click on profile tab. You can see that this class is extending from the fragment. There is an is/are relationship between these two classes. This means that profile tab is a fragment. Let me close it. Now let's go back to our tab adapter class. So that's why I am returning this profile tab. Next, here we don't need to have a break statement, because this return statement is the same as a break, because when this line of code is executed, it's gonna just break out of this method automatically. It's just gonna return this profile tab, and the codes after this return statement will not be executed. So the second case is going to be case 1 colon. So on the position, I want the second tab to be the users tab. So I'm gonna say users tab, its name is users tab. This is just a variable of type users tab. Assignment operator. Now I'm gonna create a new object of users tab, semicolon, and we just need to go ahead and return the users tab, semicolon. So instead of writing this line of code here by just creating a variable and then assigning this object to this variable, we could just go ahead and say return. Let me just delete this part of the code, and let me just cut this part and paste it here. Return a new object of type users tab. Okay, that's also possible. And here On the third position, I want the third tab to be, so case 2 colon and return a new object of type share picture tab semicolon. So now that we have implemented this get item method, now we need to go ahead and implement this get count method. So now here we just need to specify how many tabs do we have inside the tab layout. So we have 3. So I'm just going to type in here 3. Whenever that you want to add more tabs to your tab layout, you must go ahead and implement or update this tab adapter class. You need to go ahead and add a new case for your tab here inside the get item method, and also you need to go ahead and update this get count method. So next, we can go ahead and specify the title of each tab. So you may want to specify a title or you may not, that's okay. But it's much more meaningful to specify a title for each tab. So let's go inside this tab adapter class. And here you can see that before the ending curly brace of our tab adapter class, I'm just gonna type in here get page title. So the name of the method here is get page title. The return type is char sequence, which is a little bit the same as string. This method has a parameter which is of type integer and its name is position. So in each position we can specify what is the tab that we are dealing with, and we can specify a title for that tab. So here let's just delete this line of code that says return super.getPageTitle, and inside this method again we are going to create a switch statement. So switch between the position and then case the position. So if the position is 0, then we know that we are dealing with the profile tab. So here we are going to return, for example, profile. Okay, semicolon. So case is 1. So here this means that we are dealing with the users tab. So we are going to return users, semicolon. Next, case is 2, return share picture, semicolon. So because this method returns a value of type char sequence, we must specify that what is going to be the default value. So if none of these cases are used, so for example, if we have the case 0, we have the profile, 1 users, and 2 is the share picture. So we also need to have a default case so that this method would be satisfied, because you can see that here the compiler is complaining, and if I hover over this error area, it says missing return statement. That means that we need to also have a default case, and we just return null. So I'm going to return null, semicolon. And also inside this get item method, because we are using a switch statement and this method must return a value of the fragment. So if none of these cases are used, we are going to just create a default statement and just return null, semicolon. So now you can see that there is no error here. So finally, we need to go inside the social media activity class. So here, let me just close all of these tabs here. Just right click on one of them and then click on close all. And let's open our Android view and let's go inside the social media activity. And here we need to create some variables, some instance variables. I'm gonna paste them here. So here I just need to import this view pager class into my file. I'm just gonna click on OK. So here you can see that we have the private android.support.v7.widget.toolbar. Make sure that you use the same class here. We have another class called toolbar. So let me just type in here, for example, private toolbar. And if I click on it here, Alt Enter, you can see that we have a class inside the android.widget package. And we also have this one, toolbar android.support.widget. .v7.widget. We want to use this one, not the one that is inside the widget package. So let me delete it. And the name is toolbar. And then we need to also have a variable of type viewpager. And then we have the tab layout. So let me click on it, Alt, Enter. And then we need to import this class into our file. So it seems that there is no option to import this tab layout into our file. So let me comment out this line of code and let me build the project first. Build, rebuild project. It might be a bug in Android Studio. So let's wait and let's see what happens. So now the build process is finished and I'm gonna uncomment this line of code and I'm gonna type in here tab layout again. So let me click on it, Alt, Enter. So it is still not allowing me to import this tab layout into our file. So let's go ahead and let's go online and let's search for our problem. This is what we do when we encounter a problem that we don't have a solution. So here I searched for cannot import tab layout. And here we have a link on Stack Overflow, Android Studio cannot resolve symbol tab layout. Let's click on it and let's see what is here. So here it says someone had the same problem and build clean project. So we already rebuilt our project. And here we need to go inside our build.gradle file and make sure that we have these codes there. So let's go and open our Android Studio and let's go into our build.gradle file here, module app. And here, let's see what we have here. First, it says that we should have this line of code, com.android.support app combat. This is our version of the API that we are using. And then here we need to make sure that we have this com.android.support design plus. So let's see whether we have this code here, com.android.constraint layout test. So it seems that we don't have that code here. So let's go here and let me just copy this line of code and let's go into our build.gradle file of our project and let me just paste it here. Make sure that you put this line of code inside the curly braces of this dependencies block. And now here I'm gonna go ahead and sync my project and let's see what happens. So here it says that the compile keyword is obsolete. So we can go ahead and change it to implementation. Let me try again. When you add a code into your build.gradle file, you can also go ahead and click on rebuild project if it doesn't show you the sync now option. So let's wait until this process is finished. So now we can see the build was successfully completed. Now we can go inside the social media activity class and let me click on this tab layout, Alt, Enter. So now it is imported into our file. So you can see that I encountered a problem. I could not solve it by myself by just searching on the internet and finding a link on Stack Overflow that has 99% of the solutions of the problems that we have, and we could successfully find the answer there. So this is what programming really is, okay? Everything is not smooth. You just go ahead and find, for example, you encounter a problem, you do whatever you can and you cannot find the answer, you cannot solve the problem, you go to the internet and you just search for your problem and find the answer. Okay, this is not a smooth experience. You just go through a lot of problems and you find an answer for each problem. Okay, this is the way of programming. This is the way of becoming an ultimate developer, whether you are developing for mobile, desktop, or web. So now that we imported the tab layout and now we have these variables here, now we can go ahead and go inside the onCreate method and initialize our variables. So here, first of all, you can see that I am specifying the title of my activity, the social media activity. So I just typed in here social media app. And then here we are initializing the toolbar variable that we created here. And I am just referring to the ID of this toolbar of my XML file, my underlying toolbar.xml file. And then we are setting this toolbar as the action bar of our social media activity. So at the top of our activity, we have this toolbar. set support action bar, and here I am just simply passing the toolbar. So now that we have the toolbar set up, now we are going to initialize the view pager. So view pager assignment operator, find view by ID r.id.viewpager. We have this view pager inside the XML file of the social media activity. Next, we are going to initialize the tab adapter class that we created ourselves. So tab adapter assignment operator, new object of type tab adapter. And this tab adapter constructor needs an argument of type fragment manager. So that's why I just passed get support fragment manager in order to get the proper fragment manager automatically. So this is just a method. So make sure that when you say get support fragment manager, you put a pair of parentheses here. And then here we are going to set the adapter. So we are saying that view pager dot set adapter tab adapter. We are integrating this tab adapter. We are specifying the adapter of this view pager to be the tab adapter so that we can get the data from the tabs that we created here from the fragments, and we put it inside the view pager. So now this view pager can go ahead and show each tab on our social media activity, and we can switch between each tab and scroll left or right. So setting the adapter for this view pager is very important. If you don't put this line of code here, it won't work. And then we are going to say tab layout assignment operator. So this is our variable tab layout. Find view by ID r.id.tab layout. We have the tab layout inside the social media activity XML file inside that app bar layout. And then we are saying that tab layout dot setup with view pager. So we want to set up the tab layout with the view pager so that everything works smooth and there is a cooperation between these objects. So now we have tab layout dot setup with view pager. We need to pass the view pager as the first argument. And then the second argument is auto refresh. So this is not important. Let's just pass the value false as the auto refresh. Don't worry about this one. Now that we have everything set up, we can go ahead and run our app. So here you can see that our application is crashed. So there is a bug inside our app, a runtime exception. So if you go to your Android Studio, click on logcat actually, and here you should see these codes. Make sure that here the category is error and you can only see the errors. And here just find these codes. And here it says this activity already has an action bar. So supplied by the window decor. Do not request window.feature support action bar and set window action bar to false in your theme to use a toolbar instead. So this activity here already has an action bar and we are trying to add a toolbar to it, so it's not working. It just throws an illegal state exception. In order to solve this problem, it's just saying that go ahead and set our theme of our activity and say that there will be no action bar here, and then we can go ahead and add our own action bar to our layout. So let's just go ahead and open the Android view. Here inside this app folder, we have this manifest folder. Double click on this Android manifest.xml file, and then here you can see the activities that are added here, right? We have this social media activity. I'm gonna go ahead and add another attribute to this activity. First, we have the name dot social media activity. This dot here refers to the package. We have the package dot social media activity. So the package is specified at the top here. So inside this manifest tag, you can see that we have this package and our classes are added to this package. So that's why when it says dot, you can see that it is referring to the right package and then the class that is inside that package. So if your class is inside another package, you must write the entire package name here as the value of the name of your activity. So now I'm going to add another attribute. It is going to be the theme of our activity. And here I am going to just type in here app theme, or let's just type in here theme and then select app theme dot no action bar. So first type in here @style/ and then type app theme dot no action bar. So here you can see that the autocomplete feature is not helping us to find this style. That's because we haven't still declared this style inside the stylist.xml file. So don't worry about that. Just type in here no action bar, and then we need to go ahead and open the Android view, go inside this res folder, values, and then go inside the stylist.xml file. So here we are going to add a new style inside our resources tag. I'm gonna paste this style here. So just open a tag style, name it as apptheme.noActionBar, the same name that we used inside the manifest file. And inside this style tag, we have two items. First, it's window action bar false. We don't have any action bar. And we are saying that window no title. We don't have any title here because we are going to specify the title inside our social media activity. And we said true for the no title. So now that we have this set up, if you go to the manifest file, here there should be no error. So let me delete it and just type in here again, no action bar. So now it is working fine. There is no error. Now we can go ahead and run our app. So congratulations. This is our tab layout. We have the profile tab, the users tab, and the share picture tab. So everything is working perfectly. Now we need to go ahead and design each layout, each fragment specifically. So let's go into our Android Studio and let's go inside the profile tab. So first, let's go ahead and open the fragment profile tab.xml file. So here you can see that we have a frame layout as the root layout. Let's go and switch to the text tab. Let's change the frame layout and let's put a constraint layout instead. And then here, let me just delete this text view. We don't need it. And also let's switch and let's, for example, choose the other tabs, the fragment users tab. And here also, instead of a frame layout, I'm gonna choose a constraint layout. So here, let's say constraint. And also the other tab is share picture tab. Let's delete this frame layout and choose constraint layout. So now that we have added lots of changes to our project, let's go ahead and commit and push our changes to GitHub. So VCS, commit, and then here the message is going to be tab layout set up, and then just click on commit and push. So first of all, let's go ahead and design the profile tab. So here I'm gonna just double click on this file and switch to the design. And here, let me show you what we are going to design first. We need to have 5 edit texts. One of them is for the name, the profile name, and this one is for the bio, and this one is for the profession, this one is for your hobbies, and this one is for favorite sport. So just create these edit texts and a button here. So you already know how to design such a layout. So I have added these edit texts and this button here to the layout. And here you can see that there are some icons here. One of them is for clear all constraints. Let's click on this one. And now all of the constraints are deleted. So now I want to add the constraints. So the first one is selected. And here, in order to add the constraints, I can either do it here or in the attribute section. So this time I want to add the constraints in the attribute section. So first, let's give this edit text an ID. So EDT profile name. So because this tab, the name of this tab is profile tab, you can see that I am adding this profile keyword to the ID of this edit text in order to differentiate this edit text from other activities or fragments. So here, let's add the constraints. Select this edit text. Here, just add the constraint to the top, left and right. Make sure that you are inside the fewer attributes section here. So here we have all of the attributes, and here we have fewer attributes. Let's select this one. So this one is going to be EDT profile bio. And let's add the constraints, top, left, and right. So it's going to add the constraint to the bottom edge of the above edit text, a constraint to the left edge, and another one to the right edge. Let's select this one, EDT So it is going to be profession, EDT profile profession. A constraint to the top, left and right. So let's select this one. This one is going to be EDT profile hobbies, and let's add the constraints. So here, let's add this constraint, this one, and let's also add the final one. It is going to be EDT profile favorite sport. So let's add the constraints. So let's solve the problem of top margin. So this one, its top margin is 8. Let's select the second edit text here. Let's select the EDT bio here. So it is, the top margin is 8. This one, it is 6. So let's change it to 8. And let's select this one. It is 10. Let's select it and change it to 8. And also this one. Now let's change it to 8. So all of these edit texts have the same top margin, and the ID is specified for all of these edit texts. And also this button is btn update info. And let's add the constraints. So a constraint to the bottom edge of the above edit text, to the right and to the left. So hopefully that makes sense. And now we can go inside our fragment that is related to this XML file. So let's open the Android view and let's go to the profile tab fragment. And here, let me tell you something, that if I press on the insert key on my keyboard, you can see that the cursor here is changed, right? And this is not the proper way, and it's gonna make programming a little bit harder. So if you accidentally press on the insert key on your keyboard, make sure to press on it again in order to bring back the cursor to its original position. So now you can see that it's back to its original position. So that was just a trick that I wanted you to know, because sometimes you accidentally press on a key and that would cause an unexpected behavior. So here I'm gonna declare all of my edit texts and my button here inside the profile tab class. So here you can see that all of these edit texts are declared here, and we have the button. So here we have a constructor that is required to be here. It says required empty public constructor. So make sure that you have the constructor here, because we are inheriting from a fragment, okay? This is not an activity. And then we have the onCreate view. So instead of onCreate method that we have inside the activities, inside a fragment, we have onCreate view. So this method has some parameters. One of them is inflator, which is of type layout inflator, view group, and the bundle save instance state. So this parameter is also used inside activities in order to save the states of our instances. We'll learn about this later. So here, let's see what's going on inside the body of this onCreate view. It says return inflator. So notice that the return type of this method is view. So this means that this method must return a value, an object of type view. Inflator, this is referring to this inflator, dot inflate or dot layout dot fragment profile tab. And then as the second argument, this is the container, the view group that is going to contain this fragment. So in this case, the view group is going to be our activity. And then we have the attached to root. So this is going to be false because our fragment is already attached to our activity. So we don't need this value to be true. So now here, instead of saying return, let's create a variable. Let's delete this return and let's say view of type view class. And then let's name it as view assignment operator. So here I am creating a variable of type view, and I am saying that inflator that inflate this XML file on the container, which is going to be the activity. So this method is the same as the set content view method that we use inside the activity. So for example, if you go to the social media activity class, here you can see that we have this method that is going to set the XML file on our activity. Okay, so this is going to be the layout that we see when this activity runs, when an instance of this activity runs. So let's go back to profile tab. So in fragments, instead of content view or instead of set content view, we have inflator.inflate. So hopefully that makes sense. Now, after this line of code, I'm gonna say that I'm gonna initialize my UI components that I declared inside this profile tab. So in order to initialize the UI components that you declare inside the fragment, you can't just, for example, say EDT profile bio assignment operator find view by ID. That's not gonna work. It's not possible here. So here, let's say that we have EDT profile name assignment operator. So here we have the view, right? The inflator that is going to inflate our XML file and the container, right? This view is going to contain or have a reference to our UI components ID. So here I can say view dot find view by ID, and then I can refer to the ID of this UI component, r.id.edt profile name. So you can see it's a little bit different than activities. So let's also say EDT profile. Now we have bio assignment operator view dot find view by ID r.id.edt, and then I can just say profile bio semicolon. So in order to become a professional Android developer, you must know all of these differences, and you must actually work with all of these layouts, activities, and codes. And you should know what is the difference between an activity and a fragment. So next we have EDT profile. Now we have the profession. I think the third one is profession, right? Now I'm gonna say view dot find view by ID r.id.edt, and then I can just say profile profession semicolon, and here we have the profile hobbies and profile favorite sport. So EDT profile hobbies find view by ID view dot find view by ID r.id.edt profile hobbies semicolon, and finally we have the EDT profile favorite sport view dot find view by ID r.id.edt profile favorite sport semicolon. So in this way we initialize our UI components, okay? But this method, this onCreateView, must return a value of type view. So here we just say return view semicolon. And also let's initialize our button. So before this return statement, we're gonna say btn update info view dot find view by ID r.id.btn update info. So what we want to do here with this data. So here, when the user enters a profile name, a bio, profession, hobbies, and favorite sport, and when the user clicks on the update info, we want to send this data to the server, and this data will be the columns or the attributes of the current parse user. So, and then we want also, when the user enters the app, we want each edit text to get the proper value from its specific column from the server. So let's go ahead and let's see how it is implemented. First of all, here after initializing our btn update info, I'm gonna say btn update info dot set onClick listener new view.onClick listener. Inside the onClick method, here first we need to have a reference to the current parse user. So inside this onCreateView method, I'm gonna first get access to the parse user. So I'm gonna say parse user. So I'm gonna first import it. I'm gonna hold down the Alt key and then press on Enter key on my keyboard, and then I'm gonna click on import class. So let's name it as parse user assignment operator, and let's say parse user dot get current user semicolon. Now that we have a reference to the current user of the application, now we can go inside the onClick method and we can say parse user dot put. So here we just need to specify the key and the value. The key is going to be profile name, comma, and the value, it could be anything. It could be an integer value, a string value, a float value. So here we are going to get the value from the EDT profile name dot get text dot toString semicolon, right? And we do the same thing for all these other edit text, for example, profile, hobbies, bio, and other attributes. So here are the codes. We have the profile bio that we get from the EDT profile bio, profile profession, profile hobbies, and profile favorite sport. So now we're gonna go ahead and just put this data to the server. So here we just need to say parse user dot save in background, and then we have a callback. So new save callback, and then we have this exception. So we just need to make sure that there is no error. So if e is equal to null, there is no error, then we are sure that these data are saved into the server. So here we just need to go ahead and paste a fancy toast message. So let's go ahead and go into the sign up class, and let's just copy this fancy toast message for success, and let's go inside the profile tab and paste it here. So it says that we need to import the toast and also the fancy toast classes into our file. So here for the context, we need to just call get context. So we cannot pass profile tab as the context because it is a fragment, not an activity. So we just call the get context method, and it automatically gets the proper context for us. So the message is going to be info updated, and then the length is short, and the type of the fancy toast message is going to be info. The Android icon is true, and we call the show method. So if anything goes wrong, I'm just gonna copy and paste this message here inside the else block, and we just get the error. We just say e.getMessage, and the type of the fancy is going to be error. So fancy toast.error, and that's fine. So now we can go ahead and we can run our application. So here it is, our app. Now we are supposed to enter a value for the profile name. So I'm gonna say Mori, and I'm gonna say the bio. So here I can say I'm a programmer, and here for the profession I can say Android developer, or for example a comma mobile developer. And for your hobbies I can say yoga and gaming, boxing, and your favorite sport I can say, for example, boxing. And now I can go ahead and click on this update info. So here we should also put a progress dialog that shows us something going on here. So I leave that as a challenge for you. So here it says info updated. So now let's go into our backend and let's see whether these data are saved or not. So here it is, my dashboard. I'm gonna click on my app and I'm gonna click on dashboard. Next, let's go ahead and click on user. So here we have 11 users, and here we have, for example, the user here, the object ID, email verified, we have updated ad, and here we have the username. So here we should see the columns, the email, profile, favorite sport here. So these data are for johnny@example.com, this email, this user. And here we have the profile profession, we have the profile hobbies. So I can click on each column and I can see what is here, and we can also update this data here. And we also have this one, profile hobbies, and the profile name is Mori, and the profile bio is I'm a programmer. So everything is working fine, but here you can see that for the other users, these data are not updated. Other users have not, for example, yet updated this data. Only the user, the current user, has updated this data. So it works perfectly. And here, let me tell you that you can also add a row here, or also you can update a specific column if you want. You can also, for example, click on edit, add a row, add a column, add a class. You can do whatever you want here. Everything that is done in the code can also be done here in the dashboard. So now we have a problem. So now let's go to our Android Studio. And here, if I go ahead and run our application again, you can see that we will not be able to get the data from the server because I want the edit-text values to get updated. So here you can see there is nothing here because I have already updated this data, and for example, I have a value for the profile name in the server. So here I want these edit-texts to get the data from the server and to be updated. So how we can do that? We need to go into our onCreateView method of this profile tab class here. And then after getting the current parse user, we can go ahead and update the value of our edit text. So for example, edt profile name dot set text, and then we can get the parse user dot get, and here we just need to pass the column name. So for example, profile name, comma. So here we don't need to pass any key here. We just pass the key, and it's gonna go ahead and get the value for us. But here we have an error. It says that this get method returns a value of type object, but this set text method of this edit text needs a value of type string. So we just simply go ahead and put a plus operator and two quotes in order to concatenate this value with a string value, and in this way it is going to be converted to a string value. Or we can do something else. We can say dot to a string, because the object class has a method to a string, and it's going to give us a string representation of this object. So now we can do the same for other edit text. So for example, edt profile, and here we have bio dot set text parse user dot get, and we pass the key. The key is going to be profile bio, and then we just call dot to a string. So let's do the same thing for other edit text here. So here I did the same thing for other edit text, and in this way we get the updated data from the server, and we put it as a text of our edit texts. So you can see that our edit text objects also have the set text method. So let's go ahead and run our app now, and let's see what we can get here. So now you can see that here I get the updated data from the server. So here let me tell you that if other users, for example, if Jack tries to log into the application, you can see that other columns are added to the parse user. And these values, for example, favorite sport, profile profession, all of these values are undefined for the Jack user. So in that case, when the Jack user tries to get the data from the server and put the data in the edit text, then in that case, the value null is going to be back from the server. So you just need to go ahead and create an if statement inside your profile tab, inside the onCreateView, and you can say that whether the data that is get from the server is null or not. If it is null, for example, you can say that if the profile favorite sport of the current user is null, then you can just, instead of showing the null value, you can go ahead and show an empty string value. So that's a challenge for you. Go ahead and implement this functionality, because here, let me tell you that if you go to the application, and here I'm gonna just click on back. So here I'm gonna go ahead and create a new user. So I'm gonna say that Joanna is the email joanna@example.com, and we can specify a username. I'm gonna say Joanna, and the password is 123. If I click on sign up, let's see what happens. Now here our application is crashed. Why? Because it is trying to get the null data from the server, and it is trying to call the toString method on that null data. So let's go to our Android Studio, and here let me show you what is happening here. Here we are getting the, for example, profile name from the user, right? So we get the profile name, but what if the profile name that we get from the current parse user is null? And here we are calling the toString method on a null object. So that is a big no in Java. You cannot call a method on a null reference. So that is going to wind up with an exception. So in order to solve this problem, I just went ahead and instead of calling the toString method on this object that we get from the parse, I just, in order to convert it to a string value, I put the concatenation operator plus 2 quotes. So in this way, if we get a null object from the server, it's just gonna convert it to a string value null. It's just gonna show the user the value null. It's not gonna crash the application, okay? Plus 2 quotes. So just delete the toString method and then instead use plus 2 quotes. So that's the difference between the toString method and using a concatenation operator in order to convert a value to a string value. Especially here that we are getting an object from the server. So now let's go ahead and run our application and let's see what happens. So here you can see that this time our application didn't crash, and here we are only getting the value null, and this value is converted to a string value null and it is shown to the user. So what if we don't want to get this value null from the user? So I just want to leave that as a challenge for you, but I'm gonna do this just this specific task for this edit text profile name here, and then you have an idea what to do with other edit texts. So here, after getting the parse user, I'm gonna say if, and then I'm gonna say edt, or no, let's say if the parse user dot get, and then we need to pass the column name. So if the profile name of the user is null, so let's say profile, make sure that you pass the proper column name, so profile name. It must be the same column name that you have in the server. If the column name that we get from the user is equal to null, so now you may ask that why didn't I use the equal method? Why didn't I use, for example, the dot equal? The dot equal method is going to compare the contents of an object or toString values. So for example, if I have a variable and that variable has the value hello, and if I have another variable and that variable has the value, for example, hi, then by using the equal method, we can convert the values, the contents of these two variables together. But here I want to compare objects. I want to compare that whether the object that we get from the server is a null value or not, whether it is a null reference or not. We are not comparing the contents of an object. We are comparing two specific objects in memory. So here I'm going to say if the object that I get from the server is equal to the null value or nothing, then in that case, go ahead and set the text. So I'm just going to cut this line of code and set the text of this edt profile name to be the empty string value. So I'm just going to delete this part of the code and I'm just going to put empty string value. If this is the case, then go ahead and assign the value empty string value as the text of this edit text. But if this is not the case, if the value that we get from the server is not null, then we have an else statement and we can say set the value of this edit text to be the value that we get from this server. So I'm just going to say parse user dot get, and we only pass the profile name as the key, and then we just convert it to a string value. So here we can call the toString method here because now it is safe. We are sure that we do not get a null object from the server. So let's go ahead and run our app. Let me show you the emulator. So in this case, because the value that we get from the server is null, then it's just gonna assign the value empty string value as the value of the profile name. So let's see what happens. So here you can see that an empty value is assigned here as the value of this edit text. But for other edit text, we get the value null. So just go ahead and implement the same functionality for other edit text so that we get the proper object from the server. So now that we have implemented the profile tab, let's go ahead and implement the users tab here. So let's go back to Android Studio. Let's go and open the Android view. And now let's go ahead and open the fragment users tab. And here you can see that we have a constraint layout. Let's delete this text view. Let's switch to the design tab. And here I'm gonna drag a list view. So here we are going to learn about list views in Android. I'm gonna search for list view and let's drag it here and put it at the center of our constraint layout. Let's add the constraints first. Top, bottom, right, and here we need to add the left constraint. Let's give this list view an ID. So here inside this componentry section, list view. So I'm gonna select this list view and I'm gonna set the ID to be list view. Okay, now let's go into our fragment that is controlling this layout. So let's open the Android view. First, let me close all of these files. So close all. And now let's go into the users tab. So here, first of all, let's go ahead and create an instance variable of type list view. So I'm gonna say private list view. So I'm gonna click on it and then import this class into the file. So here, as you can see, there is an option to import the files into our class automatically. So go to File and then click on Settings, and then let's go to Editor and then General. So here let's open the General and let's go ahead and let's click on Auto Import. And here make sure that these two checkboxes are checked. Add unambiguous imports on the fly, optimize imports on the fly. And also this one is checked, show imports pop-up. This one is for XML and this one is for Java. So here, let's click on OK. And now, whenever that we write something here, it is going to automatically import that class or file into our current class. So list view, semicolon. Now let's go inside our onCreate view. So again, we have this onCreate view because we are dealing with a fragment. So let's create a variable of type view assignment operator, and then let's return this view so that there is no compile error. And now I'm gonna initialize my list view by referring to this view dot find view by ID r.id dot list view. So here I want to populate my list view with the objects, with the parse users that we get from the server. So we are going to create a query from our users in the server, and we are going to populate our list view with those users. So let's see how we can do that. So first things first, let's go ahead and create a query here. So let's say parse query. So here we need to import this class into our file. So here you can see that it is automatically imported. And then let's name it as parse query. And first let's put a pair of angle brackets after the parse query here. And then inside the angle brackets, let's say the type of the data that we want to get from the server is going to be parse user. So here, let me import it. So as you can see, when I click on the class, it is going to import it for me automatically. Now that we have this parse query, I'm gonna say assignment operator, and then I'm gonna say parse query, or let's say parse user dot get query, semicolon. And then here, let's specify that we don't want the current user to be on the list view. We don't want to get the current user from the server and show it on the list view, because the current user is already interacting with the application, and the current user should not see his username or her username on the list view. So for this query, we are going to create a condition. We are going to say parse query dot where not equal to, and then first we need to pass the key, so username, comma, and then we do not want to see the current user on the list view. So I'm gonna say parse user dot get current user dot get username, semicolon. So for this key, we have the username, right? So we don't want the username of the current user to be queried from the server. We don't want to get that value. So now that we have this condition in place, we can go ahead and say parse query dot find in background. So the reason that I'm using the find in background method is that I want to get a list of objects so that I can populate my list view with that list of objects. So parse query dot find in background, and then I just need to say new and then find with capital F in order to access the find callback. Done. Inside the done method, I just need to say if. So first let's say that if there is no error, so if error E is equal to null, and then open and close this if statement by using these curly braces. Now I am going to use a nested if statement. A nested if statement is an if statement inside another if statement. And then let's say if the objects that we get from the parse server dot size is greater than 0, then we can go ahead and do something with these objects list. So first let's go ahead and create a for loop, and let's say that here we can see that we are getting a list of parse user objects. So here I just need to say parse user, and then iterate over the objects that we get from the server. So you can also change the name of this parameter if you like. So instead of objects, I can say users. And here I just need to refer to these users. And also here, I just need to say users, because here we specified that we want to get parse user. And then inside this for loop, I can access each user here. So what we want to do with this user? So let's go ahead and create an array list and then add each user to our array list. So here, let's scroll to the top inside our class. After declaring our list view, I'm gonna say private, and then let's say array list. So the name of my array list is going to be just array list, semicolon. Now let's go inside our onCreate view method, and then after initializing the list view, I'm gonna say array list, assignment operator, new array list, and then semicolon. So now let's go ahead and go inside the for loop that we created here, and then let's add objects to our array list. Let's say array list dot add. So notice that this add method accepts an object. So I just say add, and then here I can access the user that we get here dot get username, because we are accessing a parse user, semicolon. So the reason that I can put this value here is that the value that we get from the server is of type string, and string is object. So that's why I can put this value here inside the array list. And here I am 150% sure that I get a valid value because of this if statement and this one. Here it is guaranteed that we get a valid value from the server. So here, now that we initialized our array list by getting the username of each user except the current user, then we can go ahead and initialize or populate our list view. So what to do with our list view? In order to populate our list view, we need to have an array adapter. So the array adapter is going to stay or stand between the list view on the XML file and the data. So the data is going to be our user objects that we get from the server, and now those objects, those users, are inside the array list here. So we need an array adapter that get the data from the array list, and it's going to update our list view based on that data. So this is called model view controller. The model, which is going to be the users from the server, cannot interact with the view, which is going to be our list view, directly. We need a controller here that is going to get the data from the model, the users from the server, and then it's going to update the list view or the view based on the objects or the data of the model. So let's see how it is implemented. Let's go inside our class, and then let's create, or let's declare another instance variable. Let's say private, and it is going to be array adapter, okay? And let's name it as array adapter, semicolon. And here, I just need to scroll down here, and after initializing my array list, I'm gonna initialize my array adapter. I'm gonna say array adapter, assignment operator, new array adapter. So here we need to pass some arguments to the constructor of the array adapter. First, we need to pass the context. So because we are inside the fragment, we need to call the getContext method to get the proper context, comma. Next, we need to specify the item list or the row inside our list view. So later in this course, you will learn how to create a custom row, but here we want to use one of the prepared and predefined rows in Android. So I'm gonna say Android dot r dot, and then I'm gonna use layout dot, and let's choose simple list item. So we need a list item here that is predefined for us automatically. Now that we have this item, now we need to specify the data that we want to use, and we want to populate the list view based on that data. The data is going to be our array list, semicolon. So first you need to specify the context, then you need to specify the list item. Later you will learn how to create your own list item, and then the data. So the data is inside the array list. Now that we have everything set up, now we need to go ahead and let the list view know that we have an array adapter, and the list view can go ahead and update itself based on the data that is sent from the array adapter. So how we can do that? We need to go inside this done method. After this for loop is executed, I am still inside the curly braces of this if statement that says if users.size is greater than 0. I'm gonna say that list view dot adapter, let's refer to this method set adapter, and now we need to specify the adapter of this list view, which is going to be our array adapter. That's it. Now we can go ahead and run our application, and let's see what happens. So here it is, our profile tab. Let's switch to the users tab. So here you can see all the data. So sometimes you need to wait so that it's gonna download the data from the internet. And then now we have a list of the users that are already signed up or logged in to the application. And then here you can see that we cannot see the username of the current user. So it's challenge time. First, let me go ahead and let me run the application again. So when the application runs and I immediately switch to the users tab, here you can see that it's gonna show us that nothing is here, right? And then it's gonna download the data from the internet. So what if the internet connection of the user is slow? In that case, we just want to show a text view here and let the user know that the application is loading the data, or the data is being downloaded from the internet. And then when the data is downloaded from the server, we can go ahead and by using the animation, we can disappear that text view. So go ahead and add this functionality to this users tab, and good luck. So now let's go ahead and solve this challenge. Let's go ahead and open the Android view, and then let's go ahead and open the fragment users tab.xml file, and then select this list view and set the visibility of this text list view to be gone. So let's search for visibility attribute, and I'm gonna choose gone. I don't want to see the list view here. Now I'm gonna go ahead and add a text view here into our constraint layout. So I'm just gonna paste the text view here and put it here at the center. So this is our text view, and let me add the constraints first. So I'm gonna add a constraint to the top, a constraint to the bottom, to the right, and to the left. So if you cannot locate the constraint, this circle, you just need to zoom in a little bit, and then you will find, or you can access these little circles in order to add the constraints. So the idea of this text view is txt loading users. Now we can go ahead and go inside our users tab, and now let's go ahead and initialize our text view here. So we don't have to declare our text view inside the class. We just want to use it inside the onCreate view. So I'm gonna say text view, and then it is going to be txt loading data, assignment operator, view dot find view by id, or dot id dot txt loading users, semicolon. So let's also change the name of this variable to txt loading users, the same as the id. And now let's go and let's say that when this done method is executed, and when this for loop is executed here, and we set the array adapter as the adapter of our list view, after this line of code, we can go ahead and say txt loading users dot animation, just type in here animate, dot, and choose the alpha, and here I want the alpha of these txt loading users to be 0, and the duration should be, so let's set the duration 2 seconds. So when we get the data from the server and populate our list view by using the array list data and setting the adapter of this list view, we can go ahead and we can disappear or make this text view to be disappeared in 2 seconds. After that, when this animation is executed, we can go ahead and we can set the list view dot set visibility, because currently it is gone, right? Set visibility view dot visible. That's it. Now let's go ahead and let's run our application and let's see what happens. So here let's switch to the users tab, and let's see the text view, and we can see the animation that is going to be implemented when the data is downloaded from the internet. So users, so the data is downloaded and the text view is gone. So hopefully that makes sense. So now it's time to go ahead and implement the share picture tab. So here we need an image view, an edit text, and a button. So first of all, let's go ahead and open our Android view and double click on this Android manifest.xml file. Here, we need to go ahead and put some permissions. First of all, you know that we are accessing the internet in order to do, for example, some background tasks. So in order to do that, first we need to ask for the internet condition. So just open a tag inside this manifest tag and just type in here users permission, and the name of the permission is going to be internet. So just type in here internet and choose this one, and then self-close this permission. Next, we need to go ahead and also ask for the reading of the external storage, because we want to access the images that are inside of the user's device. So for that, we need to just open a tag and say users permission, and the permission is going to be, just type in here external storage. So we have write external storage and read external storage. So because we only want to read the data from the user's device, we just want to use read external storage and then self-close this tag. So here, let me tell you about permissions a little bit here. We have dangerous permissions and we have the permissions that are not dangerous. The permission of accessing the internet is not dangerous, but the permission for accessing the external storage is kind of dangerous. And Android does not allow you to access the external storage of the user's device without the user explicitly giving you the permission to do that. So for this reading external storage permission, we need to also go ahead and inside the share picture tab, we need to put some lines of code there so that we can ask the user to give us the permission to access the external storage. So first of all, we need to go ahead, and here you can see that I have prepared some image for you. So I have used the Android Final Resizer tool in order to generate these images. This is going to be a placeholder image for our image view inside the share picture tab. So you can download these resources from the resources section of the current lecture. I'm just gonna select it and then click on copy. And now let's go into our Android Studio and then let's open our Android view. Here we have the res folder. Just right click on this drawable folder and then click on show in Explorer. So here we should see this option. And if you're using Mac, just click on reveal in Finder. And then here we just need to right click and then click on paste. So now if I close this folder, you should see that inside the drawable folder, we have this placeholder directory that contains all of our images, all of our resolutions of this same image. Now we can go inside our fragment users tab. So first let's close these two files, the users tab.java and the fragment users tab. And also let's close the Android manifest.xml file. And now let's go ahead and open the share picture tab and the fragment share picture tab. So let's choose this one. And then let's go to the design tab and design our layout. So first of all, we have done lots of changes to our project. Let's go ahead and commit and push our changes. So I'm going to click on VCS commit. And the message is going to be implemented the users tab. And I'm going to click on commit and push. So here, let's go ahead and delete this text view. So now let's go ahead and let's drag an image view here. Let's just click on image view and drag it here. And let's search for place holder. And then here, you should just make sure that the drawable tab is clicked and then open the project. So here it says nothing to show. So let me close this one and let me rebuild the project. So sometimes this happens. I'm going to click on build, rebuild project. Let me go ahead and drag an image view here again. So here I'm going to search for placeholder. So now you can see that it recognizes this image that I added to the project. I'm going to select it and then click on OK. So let's drag it here at the center horizontal. Let's add the constraints. And let's set the layout width to be match constraints. So here you can also increase the height of this image view. And then let's drag an edit text and let's add the constraints. So let me zoom in a little bit here. So why it's not showing us the zoom in option here? So let me close this file and open it again. That's weird a little bit, but that's okay. So let's go to the view at the top. And then here, I'm gonna go to tool windows. And here we should see some option in order to change the view. So if I click on enter full screen, so now we are entered in the full screen. So here we can see the zoom in option. So let me zoom in a little bit here. Now I'm going to add the constraints. So let's delete the text of this text view and let's set the hint to be please enter a description for your image. And let's set the layout width of this image view to be match constraint. And then let's put a dot at the end of this hint text. And also let's add a button here. So let's add the constraints. Let's set the ID of this button to be btn share image. And let's set the text to be share image. Okay, now let's set the layout width of this button to be match constraint. And then let's set the background color to an orange color. So here choose color tab, open the Android, and let me choose this one, orange dark, click on OK. So let's also increase the text size. So I'm gonna search for size and then text size, choose 36 SP, and let's set the text color to be blue. So just type in here text color, and here choose color tab, and let me choose the color primary and then click on OK. So I think that's fine. And if I zoom out a little bit, so it's good. And then let's go ahead and let's go inside our share picture tab, this fragment, and let's declare our UI components here. So we have private. The first one is the image view, and it is going to be, for example, img share, and then semicolon. Then we have the edit text, so private edit text, it is going to be edt description, semicolon. Next we have private button btn share image, semicolon. Now let's go inside the onCreate view. Let's delete this return and let's replace it with a variable of type view. And then let's return view. So let's say return view, semicolon. And then let's go ahead and let's initialize our UI components. The first one is img share, assignment operator, view dot find view by id, r.id dot img share. So let's go into our fragment share picture tab.xml file. So I forgot to specify an ID for this image view. So let's say that the ID is img share and click on OK. Yes. Let's go into our class and let's refer to this img share ID. Sometimes you may not be able to refer to an ID. So in that case, you just need to go ahead and click on build at the top and then rebuild project. Next, let's go ahead and initialize our edt description. So view dot find view by id, r dot id dot edt description. So let me see whether I have specified an ID or not. So let's select this edit text and let's say the ID is edt description. Yes. And let's say edt description, semicolon. Next, we have the btn share image, view dot find view by id, r dot id dot btn share image, semicolon. Next, let's go ahead and set an onClick listener for the img share and the btn share image. So let's say img share dot set onClick listener. So let's set the context to be get context, and let's say that btn share image dot set onClick listener, and let's set the context to be get context. Now this class, this share picture tab class, is going to implement the view dot onClick listener interface, and then we need to go ahead and override the onClick method. So here we can see that it has some problems with this get context. So because here we are explicitly specifying that this share picture tab class is implementing this onClick listener interface, we can simply just refer to the share picture tab class. So we can say share picture tab dot this is going to be the listener. So here, when I say share picture tab dot this means that an instance that is going to be created on the runtime of type share picture tab. So for example, let me show you the emulator. Here it is our share picture tab. So when the app runs, an instance of type share picture tab is going to be shown to us. This is an instance of type share picture tab. So that's why we can say share picture tab is going to be a listener. So let's refer to this class with capital S, picture tab dot this. Now inside this onClick method, we need to go ahead and create a switch statement. First, let me change the name of this parameter to view, and let's say switch, and let's say switch view dot get ID. So here, if the ID is, so case r dot ID dot img share, then here break case r dot ID dot btn share image colon break. So first of all, we need to go ahead and we need to check that whether the user allows us to access the images of the device or not, or we want to access the external storage. We need to ask for the runtime permission. So I'm going to paste a bunch of code here. So now I'm going to explain to you what's going on here exactly. We have an if statement. So notice that I put this code inside the case of this r.id.img share. So here we are simply saying that if the Android.os, OS means operating system, .build, .version, .stknt or the STK version is greater than or equal to 23. So let me explain to you what's going on here. Here I am simply saying that if the operating system that we are dealing with, or in other words, if the user's device operating system is 23 or Android Marshmallow or above, because according to the Android documentation, Android Marshmallow API and above, those operating systems will ask for a runtime permission. So the application cannot access the dangerous permissions without asking the user first. So if the user's device operating system is Android Marshmallow or API 23 or above, and so here we have an AND logical operator, then here we are asking that whether the user has already given the permission to the application or not. We are saying that activity compat that check self permission, because we are inside the fragment, that's why we are calling the activity compat dot check self permission. So first we need to pass the context, comma, and then we need to pass the permission that we are going to use, manifest.permission.read external storage, and then here we have a comparison is not equal to package manager dot permission granted. So this means that if the user has not given us a permission to access the read external storage, in that case we need to go ahead, so we need to go inside the curly braces of this if statement, and we need to ask the permission. We need to say request permissions. So here as the first argument we need to pass an array of permissions which is going to be of type string. So new string array and then a pair of curly braces. So here we only have one permission, manifest.permission.read external storage, comma, as the second argument we are going to have our request code for our permission. So this request code is going to be unique to our specific permission of our fragment. So here, if it is the case, if the user has not given us the permission to access the external storage, and if the user's device operating system is Android Marshmallow or above, then we can go ahead and ask the user to give us the permission. Here we are just going to ask the user. So here we can have an else statement. We can say else. So if the above condition is not true, so this means that the user's device operating system is less than to any free, then in this means that there is no need to ask a runtime permission, or we have an AND logical operator. Maybe the user has already given us the permission. So in that case, we just go ahead and access the images of the user's device. So I'm gonna just call the get image, get chosen image, actually, a pair of parentheses, semicolon. So we need to go ahead and implement this method. So you can go ahead and click on this method, hold Alt plus Enter, and then it's gonna show us an option that says create method get chosen image in share picture tab. I'm gonna click on it. So at the bottom of the file, this method is created for us. We will implement this method later, but for now we want to deal with the runtime permission. So here we called the request permissions method if the user doesn't give us the permission. So when this method is executed, when this request permissions method is executed, another method is also going to be executed. A result is going to be back. The user might give us the permission to access the external storage or not. We want to see what is that result. So here we need to go ahead and at the bottom of the file, before the ending curly brace of our share picture tab class, I'm going to type in here on result. So on permission result, actually, on request permission. And then here we have this method, its return type is void, and there are three parameters. The first one is the request code. So here we need to make sure that we are passing the exact request code that we specified for our runtime permission. In this case, we used request code 1000 in order to ask the read external storage permission. The second parameter is going to be an array of permissions, so we can access the permission. The third parameter is an array of grant results. So let's go inside this method. So after this super.on request permission result, let's write our own code here. So here I pasted this if statement. Here I'm simply saying that if the request code is 1000, the same request code that we used to ask the read external storage, and then we have a nested if statement. So if the grant results array dot length is greater than 0, so this means that we are going to make sure that we actually have a permission, a result inside this array. So if the grant results length is greater than 0 and the grant results index 0, so because the get external storage permission is actually our first permission that we ask, it is inside the index 0, because here inside this method on request permissions, you can see that we have an array of string, and here this is our first permission inside this array, inside the curly braces. This is our first permission. So this means that this permission is inside the index number 0. So that's why we pass index number 0, and here we are saying that if the index number 0 of this grant results array is equal to package manager dot permission granted, so this means that the user has given us the permission to access the external reading external storage. In that case, we go ahead and access the image. We go ahead and access the image from the user's external storage. So we just call the get chosen image. So this is very important. This method is going to be called when the user responds to the permission, responds to a dialog that asks whether you allow the application to access the external storage or not. So now let's go inside this get chosen image method, and here let's just simply create a toast message. So I'm gonna say fancy toast, and then I'm gonna say dot make text. So first we need to pass the context. So the context is going to be, just type in here get context, comma, and then the message is going to be now we can access the image, access the images, comma. Next we need to specify the duration of our toast message. So I'm gonna choose length short, comma. Now we need to specify the type of our message. I'm gonna type in here fancy toast dot, and here I can choose success, comma, and then the Android icon I'm gonna choose true. Dot show. So now let's go ahead and let's run our application and let's see what happens. So now let's go ahead and switch to the share picture tab. And now I'm gonna click on this picture. So here it is simply asking us a runtime permission. Allow Instagram clone, this is the name of our application, to access photos, media, and files on your device. The user can deny or allow the app to access the images. So if I click on deny, now if I go ahead and click on this image again it's going to ask this permission. But this time there is a new option, don't ask again. If the user check this checkbox and click on deny, then the user will need to go to the settings application and find our app there, and then there is a permissions section there. Then the user can go ahead and give this application a permission to access the photos, media, and files on the device. So this is very important. So let me just uncheck this checkbox, and let's go ahead and this time let's click on allow. Now it is showing us this toast message and says now we can access the images. So the next time that we run our application, it will not ask for the runtime permission accessing external storage. So let me go ahead and run the application again. Let's go to the share picture tab and let's click on this image. Now it says now we can access the images. So now let's go ahead and implement the get chosen image. So now here let me comment out this fancy toast message, and I'm gonna paste these lines of code here. So in order to access our images, we need to create an intent, because the images application of the user's device is another intent. So here we have intent, assignment operator, new intent, and then first we need to specify the type of the action. So I said intent.action pick. We want to capture an image, comma, and then we are going to say media store dot images dot media dot external content URI. So we use this code in order to access the images of the user's device. It can be either the gallery application or it might be the camera application. And then we say start activity for result. The reason that we use start activity for result is that we want to get an image as a result. The result might be the image or it might be no image. So that's why we need start activity for result. And we simply pass the intent, comma, and we need to have a unique request code for this intent because we want to access the image by clicking on the image view. So the request code is 2000. Now, like the permission that we implemented the on request permission result, we need to also go ahead and implement the on activity result. So before the ending curly brace of our share picture tab class, I'm going to type in here on result, or let's just type in here on activity result and implement this method. So this method has three parameters. The first one is the request code. The second parameter is the result code. And the third parameter is going to be of type intent and its name is data. So this data here is going to have our image. So now here let me tell you that accessing an image from our fragment is completely different from activities. So I'm going to paste the codes here and I'm going to explain to you what's going on here exactly. So these are the codes that I pasted here. So first, let's go ahead and let's see what we have here. We have an if statement. And here we are saying that if the request code, this parameter, this argument, is equal to the specific request code that we are going to refer to. So the request code that we specified for our image inside this get chosen image is 2000. So let's go ahead and let me delete this value and instead put number 2000. So if the request code is number 2000, so now let's go inside this if statement and let's see what we have here. We have another if statement. we have a nested if statement. If the result code, here I am referring to the result code, so make sure that you actually refer to the result code. Sometimes newbies refer to the request code instead of the result code. So the nested if statement must return to the result code. And then here we are saying that if the result code that we get is equal to activity.result OK, so the result OK means that we could successfully get an image. And then we can go inside this nested if statement and we can do something with our captured image. So here we have a try catch block. So if anything goes wrong inside the try block, it's gonna go ahead and catch the exception and it's gonna print the stack trace. So inside this try block, first of all, we have a variable of type URI. Assignment operator, we are referring to our data that we get from this onActivity result dot get data. So I told you that the data has the image that we selected. So that's why we are assigning this value to our variable of type URI, selected image. Next, we have a variable of type string array. So string array, and the name is file path column. So here we have a pair of curly braces. Inside this array, we only have one value, media store.images.media.data. So we assign this value to our variable file path column, the path of our file, and it is stored inside this string array. Next, we have a variable of type cursor. So its name is cursor, assignment operator. So we need to access the activity because we are inside the fragment. We need to go ahead and call the getActivity method in order to access the proper activity. Next, we need to go ahead and call the getContentResolver on this activity dot query, and this query method accepts some arguments. The first one is going to be the selected image that we get from this data intent. The second argument is going to be the file path column, and here the third argument we pass null, as well as the other arguments we have, for example, the selection arguments, and sort order. So we pass null for these other arguments. We don't need them. And then we call the move to first method on this cursor object. So we say cursor.move to first. We want to access the first object. And then we say we have a new variable which is of type integer. We say column index, assignment operator, cursor.get column index, and then we pass the value file path column, and we pass the index 0 in order to get the first value that we have inside this array. Notice that this array has only one value inside of it. So that's why we pass index 0 in order to access this value. And we pass it as an argument to this get column index method. So in this way, we have the column index. Next, we have another variable that is called picture path. Assignment operator. Next, we're going to go ahead and call the cursor.getString. We're going to get a string value of the column index. And we assign it to this variable picture path. So this variable is going to have the path of our picture or our image. Now that we have the path of our image, we can access it. So we don't need this cursor anymore. So we call cursor.close. If you don't call the cursor.close, it might actually just eat the resources of the device, and it's just gonna waste the resources. So it's very important that you call the close method on the cursor. So here we have the received image bitmap. So let me go ahead and create a variable of type bitmap. So our variable is of type bitmap. Let me just type here bitmap only. And the name of our variable is received image bitmap, assignment operator. So we refer to the bitmap factory class dot decode file picture path. So by accessing this picture path, we can go ahead and decode it and turn it or convert it to an object of type bitmap. So now we have the received image bitmap, and then we can refer to our image view. So I'm going to say img share dot set image bitmap received image bitmap. Okay, so if you are using a fragment in order to access the images and get an image from the user's device, these are the codes that you need to write in order to access the images and get an image and then put it on the image view. This process is completely different from an activity. We'll learn about that in the next tutorials. So let's go ahead and run our application, but it seems that there is an error here inside our file. So let's go ahead and see what is an error. So let's see. So there is no error here. Let me go ahead and just build the project and let's see what happens. So it seems that there is a compilation error here. So let me go ahead and double click on this error. So it seems that there is something wrong with our curly braces. Let me just hover over it. So it says an ending curly brace is expected. So let me go ahead and put an ending curly brace here. So let me put again. So here you can see that I forgot to put 2 ending curly braces. So that's why it has shown us an error here. So these ending curly braces are related to this onActivityResult method. So now I'm going to go ahead and run the application. So let's go ahead and switch to the Share Picture tab. Let's click on this image view. Now we have the permission to access the images, and here I have already taken some images by using the camera application. So if you don't have any image here, you can go ahead and go find the applications and then click on the camera application. And then you can use this simulator to take some image. And then you can switch to our application. You can select one of these images. Now we can see this image in place of this image view. So remember, an image view is just a container for an image. So now that we have solved the problem of this image view, now we can go ahead and share this image with a description, and other users can go ahead and see our post. So let's go back to Android Studio. Let's go inside the Share Picture tab class. So now it's time to go to the btn share onClick. So here it is, the case r.id.btn share image inside the onClick method. So now it's time to share our image with a description to the server. How we can do that? First, we need to make sure that the user has already selected an image. So we can say if. So now how we can access that selected image? So inside our onActivityResult method, here you can see that we have this variable received image bitmap, which is of type bitmap. So we can go ahead and just declare our variable inside our class. So I'm just going to copy this part of the code, and I'm going to go at the top of the class and put it here, semicolon. And then we can allow inside this onActivityResult, we can allow this variable refer to our instance variable. We don't have a local variable anymore. This received image bitmap variable, now it is referring to this variable that we have here. Okay, now that we have this variable as an instance variable, we can go to this if statement for this r.id.btn share image, and we can say that if the received image bitmap is not equal to null, then in that case we can allow the user to share this image, to upload this image to the server, and later we can get that image from the server. If this condition is true, then we can go and allow the user to upload the image. But what if this condition is not true? We have an else statement. So if the received image is equal to null, then we can go ahead and show a fancy toast message here and let the user know that he or she must select an image. So I'm gonna paste this fancy toast message here. Fancy toast make text, error, you must select an image, and the type is error. So now let's go inside this if statement. So we have another condition. What if the user has not entered a description for this image? So in that case, we won't allow the user to upload the image to the server. So we're gonna say if the edt description dot get text dot toString dot equals. So the equals method is going to compare the contents of two objects. So we are going to compare the content of this edit text with an empty string value. So if the content of this edit text is an empty string value, so in that case, this means that the user has not entered a value for the description. So we can't allow the user to upload the image. So we are going to create an else statement here. So if this condition is true and the user has not entered a value inside the edit text, again, we are going to show a fancy toast message here. And we are going to say error, you must specify a description. And the type of the toast message is error. Now inside this else statement, we can go ahead and put the codes in order to upload the image with a description to the server. So let me paste some lines of code here. So it says that we need to import the parse exception and the save callback from the parse library. So I'm going to click on OK. So here you can see the pasted codes. So let's go ahead and let's see what is going on here line by line. So first of all, we have a variable of type byte array output stream. So because we want to upload our image to the server, we need to convert it to an array of bytes. So first we need to have a byte array output stream, and then the name is byte array output stream, new byte array output stream. And the reason that we want to convert our image to an array of bytes is that an image is somehow something that is very large, and something that large cannot be uploaded without being converted to an array of bytes, so that it is much more faster to upload it to the server. So it's a very heavy task if you want to just upload the image itself to the server. We just convert it to an array of bytes, and then it will be much more easier to upload it. And then when we get from the server this image, we can just convert the array of bytes to an image. So now that we have the byte array output stream, the next line of code here is going to compress our image. So we have the received image bitmap, the image that is selected by the user. So received image bitmap dot compress. So this compress method needs 3 arguments. The first one is going to be the format of the image. So how we want to compress it? We are going to use the bitmap dot compress format dot png. We are going to use the png format. And for the quality, we are going to use 100, which is a good quality. And as the third argument, we need to pass the byte array output stream object. So we pass it here, byte array output stream. So next we have an array of bytes. So byte array bytes, assignment operator. We need to refer to our byte array output stream dot toByte array. We need to convert it to an array of bytes, and we assign it to this bytes array. So now this bytes array has our image. Now we need to say that parse file, so the name is parse file, new parse file. Next, we need to specify the name of the image. So here we can change the name to, for example, img.png. Notice that I used the PNG format here, comma, and then we pass the bytes, which has our image, which is actually our image in bytes. Now that we have the parse file, we need to go ahead and create a new parse object. New parse object, and the class is going to be photo. So we are going to have a new class in the parse dashboard named as photo, and then we are going to say parse object dot put. So here we are going to have a column named picture, and we are going to just upload the parse file, our image, to the server. And then we are going to say parse object dot put the image description. So image underline this is going to be a new column for the description of the image, comma, edt description dot get text dot toString. So we get the description from this edit text. Next, we are going to pass the username of the current parse user that has uploaded this image to the server. So we need to somehow know that who has uploaded this image to the server. So that's why we need to also pass the username. So we are going to have a username column inside the photo class, and we are going to pass the username of the current user. So parse user dot get current user dot get username. The reason that we create this column is that later when we want to get this image from the specific user, we need this username here so that we can parse this image from the server. So after that, we have a progress dialog that is going to show to the user that something is going on. So I'm gonna say loading dot dot dot, and then dialog dot show. Next, we are going to call the save in background method with a callback on this parse object, and then we can go ahead and we can take a look at the done method. So here, if there is no error, we can show a toast message to the user and say that everything went well, done. And here we can see that the type of the fancy toast message is success. And if anything goes wrong, we can show an error fancy toast message to the user. And finally, after this if-else statement, we need to dismiss this dialog. That's it. Now we can go ahead and we can run our application. So now let's go ahead and click on the share picture tab. Let's select an image, and then let's enter a description, nice image, and then let's click on share image. So here we can see the dialog, and this means that the uploading process is being executed and it says done. This means that the image is uploaded to the server. Let's go into our backend and see that whether our image is there or not. So here we can go ahead and click on, or we need to go ahead and just refresh our entire page, and let's see, because we need to have a class called photo here, and inside that class we should see our image. So if I click on this photo, here you can see our image. The username is Joanna, and the picture here you can see the name is PNG, and the image description is nice image. So everything is right, everything is correct. So if I click on this PNG here, I can go ahead and download this image. So everything is working perfectly so far. So in the next tutorial, we're gonna go ahead and implement the menu options, and we are going to log out the user. So we are going to allow the user to also upload an image without a description to the server. And we also going to log out the user from the parse server by adding just a menu option. So thanks very much for watching. If you have any questions about the concepts that you've learned so far, please post a discussion in the course and I will be there to answer all of your questions. So I look forward to seeing you in the next video.